Good evening and welcome to the Tempe City Council meeting for September 14th here in the Harry E. Mitchell Government Center. For all those that are able, could you please join us in the invocation by Councilmember Cubey, followed by the Pledge of Allegiance?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. We come here to do the business of local government, that decision-making body closest to the people. As we gather, we're reminded that in our differences there is strength. We do not all think the same way or believe the same things, yet we are linked by our common humanity. When we work together to move our community forward in a spirit of mutual respect, we showcase the best of our community, our state, and our nation. We embrace many traditions. We are Christians, Jews, Muslims, Hindus, Buddhists, humanists, atheists, agnostics, and so many other things. We are straight, gay, and transgendered. We are young and old and in between. We represent dozens of races and nationalities. We run the gamut from progressive to conservative, and some of us are a bit of both. To be sure, we don't agree about everything. There can be great passion in our beliefs, and rightly so, but there's one thing upon which we'll all agree. We share the goal of making the city of Tempe the best place it can be. We unite here today around that common purpose.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands. For all. All right. Next item on our agenda is our council minutes. Councilman Granville.
Thank you, Mayor. I would move to approve item 3A 1 through 4.
It's been moved by Councilmember Granville, seconded by Councilmember Keating. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, same sign. That motion carries. Councilmember Granville.
Thank you, Mayor. I'd move to approve item 3B 1 through 12.
Second.
It's been moved by Councilman Granville, seconded by Vice Mayor Arredondo Savage. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. All those opposed, same sign. That motion carries. Next item on our agenda is reports and announcements. I have a couple items to report. I'll come down to the podium. I am excited to announce that the City of Tempe has won the Special Achievement in a GIS award this year from Esri, which is the global leader in special analytics. More than 100,000 organizations from around the world are nominated, and Tempe was one of only 180 to receive an award. This award is given to organizations from around the world in recognition of their thoughtful leadership and innovative use of the GIS to make communities stronger and more efficient in the use of this data. Tempe is officially one of those cities. Tempe was recognized for streamlining of data internally, as well as a work on story maps, such as graffiti and historic buildings maps. Further, Tempe's GIS team embarked on an open data effort last year that offers the public information about everything from fire response times to fire response times, and I lost my stop here. The fire response time to the quality of our pavement of our roads in an effort that truly works to increase transparency and efficiency in city operations. I'd like to invite our outstanding GIS team up to the podium to be recognized as well as to receive this award. It is Renee Broderick, which is our Internal Services Director. Dave Heck is the Director of our Internal Services Director for IT. Stephanie Dietrich, which is our Enterprise GIS Manager, and Seth Lewis, the Enterprise GIS Administrator, and William Mancini, which is our GIS analyst. Could you please all come down, receive the award? Council, would you like to come down? Come on in. This is big. Out of 100,000 organizations, 180 received this award. This is great. You can't stand in front. Great job. That's awesome. Thank you. All right. Next, the other announcement I have is a quick one. Per our Tempe City Charter, the mayor has made board and commission appointments this evening as part of the regular meeting agenda. This appointment is listed under item 5A1 for board and commissions. Mr. City Manager, you have any announcements?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I just wanted to join you in your remarks regarding the award that our GIS area received. And just to point out that that's an area that 5 years ago or so that we identified as a critical need in our city, that we asked for and received assistance from the council in terms of budget and resources to make sure that we were, exactly where we needed to be in that area, and that investment of time and resource by you was something that we put to use, and the end result is that we have a GIS area that we can be very, very proud of, so thank you.
Great, thank you. The next item on our agenda is our consent agenda. All the items listed on the consent agenda will be considered as a group and will be enacted with one motion by the City Council unless an item is removed for separate considerations. Members of the public may remove public hearing items for separate consideration. Public hearing items are designated with an asterisk. Council members may remove any item for separate consideration. If you wish to speak on a public hearing item, could you please fill out a speaker's card, which is in the back of the room, and please hand it to our city clerk or our deputy city clerk. We'll call your name and it's your turn for public comment. Miscellaneous items 5A1 through 5A10. Awards and bids of contracts, items 5B1 through 5B12. I will note that 5B1 has been pulled from the consent agenda for separate consideration. There is a protest that has been filed on item 5B1. Resolutions, items 5C1 through 5C21. That is going to be, I'm asking for approval except for item 5C6, which has been removed from the agenda at the request of our staff and will be rescheduled for a future meeting, which is item 5C6. So we are looking for miscellaneous items 5A1 through 5A10, awards and bids and contracts, items 5B2 through 5B12. Item 5B1 has been pulled for separate consideration. And then resolutions, items 5C1 through 5C5 and 5C7 through 5C21. Item 5C6 has been rescheduled for a future meeting. Is there any of the items that I just read that is marked with an asterisk that is a public hearing item? Is there anyone in the audience wishing to get my attention? Could you please get my attention if you have any? That is a public hearing item? Seeing none, I'll close that portion. Councilmember Granville.
Thank you, Mayor. I have a few, but they're all related, so it's going to sound like a lot, but it's really just one. Or two, 5C1, and then 5C16 through 5C21.
Okay,
Thank you.
so is there a motion to approve the consent agenda as read with the exceptions of 5B1, 5C6, 5C1, 5C16, 17, 18, 19, 20, and 21? It's been moved by Vice Mayor Hernando Savage. Is there a second?
Second.
Seconded by Councilmember Navarro. Please vote. That motion carries 6-0 with Councilmember Shapira absent. All right, we are going to take items 5B1, and I will call Mr. Green up from our staff. And then I do have a card with Mr. Eby. He can speak after Mr. Green speaks. Five B1. Mr. Green.
Yes, Mayor Mitchell, council members, Michael Green, procurement administrator for the city of Tempe. And we are making a recommendation tonight to council to award a contract to Vin Construction for the renovation of the police department's indoor firing range. We issued this as an RFP, and went through a fairly lengthy evaluation process, which culminated in a recommendation for tonight. We had 3 companies that submitted on this opportunity, and our evaluation committee went through a fairly detailed process that involved site walkthroughs and submitted proposals and best and final offers to ensure that we were driving the best deal we could for the city, which culminated in the recommendation that we submitted. As part of our practice, we do notify all of the responding companies about our recommendation, and we did receive a protest filed by the firm that finished number 2. Paragon Tactical submitted a protest on the award recommendation, and we did review the merits and the details of that protest. I spent some time this morning with Mr. Amato, our police legal advisor, as well as Mr. Park, our representative at the city attorney's office. And we do feel that the recommendation is sound, and that we do believe that we are making a strong recommendation for council. We do not see any violations of our RFP or our procurement code. And we do think this is a reasonable and a good award recommendation that we would make to council tonight. And again, I'll be more than happy to discuss the issues involved, but we do feel confident in the recommendation being made.
All right, thank you. Mr. Eby, you're to speak on this. You're the one that filed the protest.
Thank you. Good evening, Mr. Mayor, council members, Mr. Green. My name is Jason Eby. I am a resident of Chandler, Arizona. I work in Phoenix, Arizona. I'm a partner with the Snell & Wilmer law firm, and I'm appearing tonight as counsel for Paragon Tactical, Inc. I'll keep my comments under 3 minutes. Paragon Tactical is a leading designer and builder of shooting ranges throughout the United States and a manufacturer of some of the most advanced tactical training systems commercially available. Paragon has installed its targets in, among other places, the City of Phoenix Crime Lab, City of Mesa Forensic Lab, City of Tucson Forensic Lab, and as Mr. Green noted, was one of the 3 initial offerors on this RFP that was issued late last year for approximately $220,000 budgeted renovation of the police indoor firing range. The protest that we filed, we were notified on Sunday of the proposed award to Venn Construction. We filed our protest yesterday based on that. The 2 concerns that we have that we've proposed, both based on the language of Tempe's RFP itself as well as Tempe's procurement ordinance. Number 1, the RFP and the ordinance, neither of those allow the substitution of different companies during the course of the procurement. And as Mr. Green's recommendation for City Council action notes, RJM Construction was the initial offeror. During the course of this procurement, Venn Construction, which is a different company under the records of the Arizona Registrar of Contractors and the records of the Arizona Corporation Commission, a different company was substituted in. Venn Construction was never an initial offeror for this RFP, and under your procurement ordinance and under your RFP, that's considered non-responsive. That's our number 1 concern. Our other concern is both the RFP and the procurement ordinance mandate that of any proposers who the city enters into negotiations with, which in this case was RJM and at some point substituted in for Venn, and then Paragon Tactical, any requests for best and final offers need to go to both of them. And in this situation, best and final offers were requested from either RJM or Venn. I don't know the timing of it yet until I get to see the city's file, but them and then Paragon Tactical, after the receipt of that first best and final offer based on Mr. Green's report to the City Council, the decision was made only to pursue further negotiations with either RJM or Venn, and 2 additional best and final offers were solicited from RJM or Venn, but not from Paragon. So there's two independent reasons why we believe this procurement did not comply with either the RFP or the procurement ordinance. Based on that, we filed a protest. Under the procurement ordinance, the procurement administrator, Mr. Green, needs to make a decision whether he's going to stay the award. We received his written response on that today that he would not stay it. But the process under your procurement ordinance mandates that Mr. Green, as a procurement officer, issue a written decision on our protest, which hasn't happened yet, or at least it hasn't been delivered to me. We have an opportunity to appeal that to the procurement administrator. I recognize that's the same person. We have an opportunity to appeal that to the internal services director, Ms. Broderick, which hasn't happened. And there's an opportunity for a hearing there. The reason why I'm here before you tonight, I recognize Ms. Broderick said, well, hey, look, you usually get these protests after the award. Rather than have the council award a contract, which we are already seeking to have, which we would then seek to have voided, because the relief we're asking for in the protest is either award the contract to Paragon as the responsive bidder, or reject those proposals and resolicit and reprocure this in accordance with the RFP and in accordance with the procurement ordinance. That process should be played out. So rather than have you award the contract, that process play out, and then potentially I'm back before you asking you to undo your decision, the request I'm making here tonight is that you refrain from making an award to Venn to let that process under your procurement ordinance play out, and hopefully we can resolve those issues so when procurement comes back to you for an award, everything's good. Appreciate your time. Happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, Mr. Eby. Mr. Green, can you respond to that? But looking in our packet, it says basically that Venn Construction changed the names during the process. Okay.
Yes, thank
Can you answer, can you respond to Mr. Eby's concerns?
Thank you, Mayor. Yes. I think the important point here is that the company name, the legal entity has never changed from the time they submitted their proposal to the time we are making the recommendation to you tonight. I think there's a misunderstanding about their history when it comes to their registration with the Arizona Corporation Commission and the Arizona Register of Contractors Office. They submitted under the name of RJM Construction. The legal entity is Monrad Veldman Construction. They formed that legal entity in 2015, and they used the trade name of RJM Construction when they submitted their bid. So the legal entity was established at the time of the submittal, and when we went to go through the best and final process, it became aware to us that they had changed their trade name to Venn Construction. And so we asked them to clarify that through one of our best and final processes, which they did, and they did explain that they had purchased the assets from RJM Construction of Arizona, which was a company they worked for back in 2012. They purchased the assets from that company and formed a new company in 2015, well before we ever issued our procurement. And so the entity, there's no question in our minds that we're dealing with the same entity that submitted this proposal on the submission date to the point that we're making the recommendation to council.
Councilman Granville.
A couple of quick questions. I mean, I appreciate the legal arguments you've made here. I am in no position to weigh the merits of those arguments, having just heard them just now. But there's a couple of things I would want to know. Number one is does it in any way greaten or lesser our rights or our needs as a city by putting this off 2 weeks? Usually for projects like this type, 2 weeks doesn't matter. But I also want to make sure that if the correct action is we need to pass it so that we've secured certain rights that then trigger future things. Does that make sense?
Yes, Councilmember Granville, thank you. I think it's important to point out that we haven't made a final decision on the protest. You know, the city has 10 business days to respond to that, and we will take a deep dive and review that in detail and respond to Mr. Eby as a result of that. But it's important to know that we've done a preliminary review of the two issues that were brought up, and we do feel confident that these are non-issues when it comes to the process that we utilized. So I do feel confident. The issue that was discussed about the best and final process, our procurement code specifically allows us to go through multiple best and final offers if we need to, and we also have the right to remove companies if the committee determines so. And so Paragon Tactical had every opportunity to submit and compete all the way up to the best and final #1. We rescored and made a decision to remove them. We had no obligation to continue them through the process if the committee felt that there were reasons why we should move on. And so that issue is certainly part of our procurement code. We have that ability to do
If
that.
I could ask just one quick follow-up question. Without you telling me what the legal advice was, because I don't want to do it, did you seek legal advice related to prior to the meeting tonight?
Councilmember
Or
Granville,
in your actions? I just want to make sure you talked to either an internal attorney or the city attorney or someone.
we did.
Okay.
Prior to the recommendation, all of our projects are reviewed. Mr. Park.
Okay, I mean, not specifically reviewed your process, but you reviewed the concerns that we've heard tonight here.
Yes, we reviewed that today.
Okay.
These issues were reviewed with Mr. Park and Mr. Amato this
Okay,
morning.
that's what I wanted to know. Thank you.
Vice Mayor Donna Savage and Councilman Navarro.
Thank you, Mr. Green. Just one really quick question in regards to our processes, a typical process when it comes to a protest and an appeal. And I know Mr. Eby mentioned about that usually happening after a vote is taken or through that process. Could you kind of walk us through that just a little bit?
Sure. Mr. Eby and Paragon have every right to challenge the protest now. It's a legitimate protest. And what we will do is we have 10 business days to respond to that and review that. And what I would encourage, I would be more than happy to and host this, is to have a debrief meeting with Mr. Eby and his client tomorrow morning. I'm ready to have a visit, and we will be able to share all of our documentation with them. Right now, the file is confidential until council makes a decision. They have access to everything that we published in the request for council action, but we would be happy to discuss and show them more detailed evaluation information that will give them more information in their decision on their future actions.
Understood.
Councilman Navarro.
Thank you, Mayor. Yeah, and Councilmember Dondo Savage kind of had my follow-up question, but just to add on, it seems that obviously other process, we've gone down this road before, and it just seems wise to me, Mayor, that let's let the process play out. Let's have Mr. Green respond, and I like that we just pass this forward for tonight and let the process go. That's a motion to to pass it as is and let the process
Approve.
5B1. Sorry,
It's a long day.
it is a long day, 30 hours.
It's been moved. Wait, any other further discussion from the council on this? There's been a motion to approve item 5B1 and it's by Councilman Navarro, seconded by Councilmember Keating. If there's no further discussions, please vote. That motion passes 6-0 with Councilmember Shapiro absent, and I'm sure that we'll be contacting you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Next is items 5C1. Mr. Granville.
Thank you, Mayor. I won't belabor at this point. This is, I think, my third or fourth time to pull this item and vote no on it. The reasons are unchanged. I've talked to the police chief about it. All's well. It's just a philosophical difference on this one.
Okay. It's been moved by Councilmember Cubey to approve item 5C1, seconded by Vice Mayor Arredondo Savage. Please vote. That motion passes 5-1 with Councilmember Granville voting no and Councilmember Shapiro absent. Next one is item 5C16. Mr. Granville.
Thank you, Mayor. So I'm going to speak just about 5C16, and then we'll just have the votes for the other ones, if that's okay, to not to belabor the point. They're all related to the Cox Cable agreement. There are certain ones of these waivers I probably would be okay with, and some that I would not be okay with. My issue is just this: is Cox is a monopoly, and I feel like there needs to be a larger discussion about the way that we review and hold that monopoly power accountable. So, for example, I'll just speak for myself. At my house, I can get Cox Cable, or I can get nothing. I think I can get 1.2 megabits through Quest, and that is literally it. So if my internet connection speed were slower, or my bill were 3 times more expensive, or I never could get through to a phone call to them, I have no recourse but to sell my house and move. That is a monopoly. And so for those reasons, I think what we need to be doing is not doing individual waivers or a contract at this point. We really need to talk about the way that we review and keep tabs on what we would have the expectations of a monopoly as a city, whether that's quality of service, speed of service, price, the ability to allow other people into the market, the ability to allow the city to take roles in the market, a whole host of things that we just don't have in this agreement right now, or won't have the one that we pass and we vote on in a couple of weeks. And I believe it's going to be another 10 years before we can reopen these discussions, because the last one was voted on in 2007. And I'm just, at this point, I am not comfortable committing us to another 10 years without having any regulation of of a utility that doesn't go through our typical city process for price setting or anything like that. And while Cox, I'm sure, is great, it's at least inherent to monopolies to abuse that monopoly. And so I would love for us to have a larger discussion about how we limit that.
Judy, if I could, can you explain why there's certain waivers? I mean, I understand the comments that Councilman Granville mentioned, but I think the reason why we're having this discussion is because either state law has changed and we haven't caught up to certain codes within our own codes. And this is something that, whether it was Cox, let's say, for example, Google or CenturyLink, anyone else, we treat everybody the same. If you can explain that why this is like, it's not because, I mean, if you just go ahead and explain that for our audience and the members of watching.
Sure. Thank you, Mayor, members of council. So these waivers are before the City Council this evening as requested by Cox. And these are waivers of certain requirements that are in the Tempe City Code currently. These waivers that are being requested are consistent with the prior license agreement that Cox and the City of Tempe had previously entered into, and they're consistent with what we would offer to other cable providers such as CenturyLink or any other company who comes in and asks for this type of waiver. And Mayor, you are correct. There has been certainly a change in technology in the last 10 years. And state law and our Tempe City Code is working to try to keep up with that, but failing to do so in the most timely fashion. But in any event, our code has been changed to reflect some recent revisions. And so the number of waivers that are in front of the council tonight, I think, is largely based on the changes in state law and the state code.
Thank you. Yes, Councilman Cubie.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Yeah, I just wanted to point out, this isn't, we're all consumer advocates here, and this isn't to argue for the lessening of the more oversight of monopolies and to make it into a larger issue. And we're looking at the agreement that's coming up in a couple weeks. This is simply aligning with state and law and adjusting our code. And in the case of, say, the build-out waiver, that waiver was approved, has already been in existence, and it was approved after Cox has already built out in Tempe. So the infrastructure is already all built out, and Cox does still remain subject to enforcement of federal level rules. And so I feel like it's just a little bit of misplaced concern. You can, of course, vote whichever way you want, but this is to adopt a state and federal law. And to me, it's just to codify the waivers as they already exist for everyone.
With that, is there a motion for items 5C, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, and 21?
So
This is moved by Vice Mayor Arredondo Savage. Is there a second?
Second.
Seconded by Councilmember Keating. Please vote. That motion passes 5-1 with Councilman Granville voting no and Councilmember Shapiro absent. All right. Next item on our agenda is, let's see here. These are miscellaneous items, bids, and contracts and resolutions. The first item is section 6A1, is to adopt a resolution authorizing the mayor to sign amendments. One, to an intergovernmental agreement with the Regional Public Transportation Authority for the purchase and supply of transit services. Is there any comments or discussion from the council on item 6A1? Is there a motion on item 6A1? Moved by Councilmember Cubie, seconded by Vice Mayor Ordano Savage. Please vote. That motion carries 6-0. Councilmember Shapiro absent. Item 6A2 is to adopt a resolution authorizing the mayor to sign operations funding agreement number 10 with Valley Metro Rail Incorporated for light rail transit services for fiscal year 17-18. Is there any comments or discussion on item 6A2? If not, is there a motion on item 6A2?
So moved.
Moved by Councilmember Grandal, seconded by Councilmember Keating. Please vote. That motion passes 6-0. Item 6A3 is to adopt a resolution to partially waive a requirement of Tempe City Code, Chapter 10, Section 10, 72A1C regarding the indemnity obligation for Cox Communications Arizona LLC. Lauren?
Yes, based on staff recommendations to deny, I would like to make a motion to deny this resolution,
So there's-
6A3.
There's a motion to deny 6A3. Is there a second? Seconded by Councilmember Keating. Please vote.
Which a yes vote is to deny?
No, a yes vote is to deny it because the way the motion was,
Worded. That's what I was-
so I think we all want to, okay? Please vote. That motion carries 6-0. The next item is the next section of is our non-consent agenda is non-consent agenda is the ordinance and items for introduction and first hearing. These items will be read and introduced tonight. No votes will be taken tonight. The second hearing of these votes and for items is scheduled for September 28, 2017. Ordinance and items for introduction and first hearing. Item 6B1 is to introduce and hold a first public hearing to adopt an ordinance authorizing the abandonment of a portion of a 17-foot irrigation and public utility easement located in a subdivision south of Warner Road and west of Price Road. The second and final public hearing is scheduled for September 28, 2017. This is a public hearing item. Is there anyone in the audience wishing to address this under item 6B1? Could you please get my attention? Seeing none, close that portion of the hearing. Any comments or discussion from the council on item 6B1? Seeing none. Next item is 6B2 is to introduce and hold a first public hearing to adopt an ordinance authorizing the abandonment of the portion of the sewer line easement located in northwest corner of University Drive and Rural Road. The second and final public hearing is scheduled for September 28, 2017. This is a public hearing item. Is there anyone in the audience wishing to address us under item 6B2? Could you please get my attention? Seeing none, close that portion. Any comments or discussion from the council on item 6B2? Next is item 6B3, is to introduce and hold the first public hearing to adopt an ordinance authorizing the lease agreements between the City of Tempe and Tempe Community Action Agency for the lease of space for the Escalante and Clark Park Community Gardens. The second and final public hearing is scheduled for September 28, 2017. Is there any comments or discussion? This is a public hearing item. Anyone in the audience wishing to address us under item 6B3, could you please get my attention? Seeing none, close that portion. Any comments or discussion from the council on item 6B3? Next item is our ordinance and items for a second hearing and final adoption. We will be taking action. Item 6C1 is to hold a second and final public hearing to adopt an ordinance authorizing the granting of a power distribution easement for Salt River Project Agriculture Improvement and Power District over certain city-owned land located north of McKellips Road and west of Scottsdale Road, authorizing the mayor as designee to execute an easement agreement and related documents. This is a public hearing item. Is there anyone in the audience wishing to address us under item 6C1? Could you get my attention? Seeing none, close that portion. Any comments or discussion from the council or a motion on item 6C1? It's been moved by Councilmember Keating, seconded by Councilmember Navarro. Please vote. That motion passes 6-0. Next item on our agenda is our current events and announcements and future agenda items. Councilmember Granville.
Nothing, Mayor. Thank you, though.
Vice Mayor Hernando Savage.
Thank you, Mayor. Just a really quick reminder that this Saturday we have College Connect, and it's going to be an awesome college fair. So if you know anybody that's thinking about maybe going to college, community college, or university, all of our state universities will be there, our community colleges will be there, and even our employment partners will be there. So I really encourage any youth to come on out and learn a little bit about how to promote yourself and hopefully to have a successful transition into college, or at least, do some exploration. So this Saturday at the Tempe Public Library, we start at 10, and hope to see lots of people there. And of course, just on a personal note, my mom's birthday's tomorrow. I'm going to get some brownie points for this one. So happy birthday, Mom. Or she's going to be mad that I even brought it up. So
49.
anyway, yes. Anyway, hi, Mom. Love ya.
All right, Councilman Navarro.
Thank you, Mayor. Yeah, I just want to briefly let you guys know, I just came back from Chengdu, China for National League of Cities. Literally came back. 30 hours ago I was there. And I have to say it was a really intriguing conference. It was the International Forum of Smart Cities and the first Mayor's Roundtable of a variety of different mayors from around China and actually around the world. Great discussion on just initiatives that other cities are doing around the world, so to speak. And China took the lead on this, on how they're achieving to be smart cities or data collective cities or cities that use technology and information to help streamline what we all do in trying to provide great customer service for their people. And when you talk about a city like Chengdu, which is 14 million people, and that's their I think their sixth biggest city. The number one biggest city has about 35 million approximately. There are a lot of complications, obviously, with that. So from the large down to the small, which is like Tempe, it just gives us the opportunity to really absorb what is out there, what other cities are doing, and how are they achieving those goals, and how are they using those goals to really propel their cities into the next level. And we're talking about the future. We're talking about the population. We're talking about how big this population is going to grow worldwide. And China, Africa, and India are going to lead that growth. And it really kind of took me back a little bit just to really understand how we're developing our cities. And I have to say, from the discussions we had for the last 2 days, Tempe is really sitting on a gem. We have the ability to enhance our downtown and enhance the other areas of the city through technology, through smart solutions. And it's not to say technology is the so to speak, is the answer to everything. We have to have a balance, and that was part of the discussions too. Is the fact of there is a balance of technology, because as we get further and further with artificial intelligence, how far do you want to go? They were talking about machines could run us, could run the world, so to speak, and how complicated that could be. So it was kind of a discussion on where do you dial it back and where you dial it forward. So I have to say it was eye-opening, but it was also reassuring that Tempe, we are doing a lot of the stuff that they're doing worldwide. So that is a testament to the staff, to our council, and to our people, because our residents, the openness, the data collection, the transparency that we're doing within our city, that's what's driving where we're going to go. That's what's driving what we're going to challenge ourselves next time, to traffic, to building, whatever it may be. But I have to say, man, we are doing a great job, and I was very proud to be there, and I was very proud to represent Tempe. So thank you.
Many of us attending the Healing Fields ceremonies on 9/11, and it was a very moving day. And I met a man named Mike Scheid, who is a disability activist in the community. He worked 40 years at 37 years at State Farm and has been a volunteer in the Tempe community for 37 years. And Special Olympics, Arthritis Foundation, so many organizations Mike has been a part of. And he gave me a poem that he wrote to dedicate to all of our fallen fighters, firefighters, and police officers, and those who perished in 9/11. And with your liberty, I'd like to read that to you. This is a poem by Mike Scheid, and it's called My Garden. My garden is always open to walk through. As the morning fog lifts and comes from the earth's floor, you see the path to walk. Please take my hand. Take in the smells of the forest so green. Feel my ocean of love pull you so soft and gentle into my world I call my garden. So thanks, Mike, for sending us that beautiful poem.
Thanks, Councilman. Councilmember Keeney?
Nothing from me, Vice Mayor, thank you.
Right, guess I'm in charge. And it's almost over.
You mean the meeting?
Oh, yeah, the meeting's almost over. Okay. All right, now it's time for public appearances. I don't see that we have any scheduled public appearances at this time, but I do have 2 cards for unscheduled appearances. And for those of you, I would like to let you know that according to the Arizona Open Meeting Law, the City Council may discuss matters listed on this agenda. Matters discussed by the public during public appearances cannot be discussed by the City Council unless they are specifically listed on this agenda. There's a 3-minute time limit per speaker. Speakers' visual aids or recorder tapes are not allowed. And we'd ask that members of the public shall refrain from making personal, impertinent, and slanderous remarks, from becoming boisterous while addressing the City Council or while attending the meeting. Unauthorized remarks from the audience, clapping, stomping of your feet, yelling, or any similar demonstrations are also prohibited. Violations of these rules may result in removal from the City Council meeting. So the first speaker I have here is Catherine Roxlow. I hope that's what it says.
Hi, I'm Catherine Roxlow. I live in Phoenix and do a lot of volunteer kind of part-time activities. I work at Scottsdale Community College, the Institute for Civil Dialogue here at ASU, and I just wanted to make an observation that I really feel when I look around the valley that the City of Tempe is doing a great job for adding quality of life for me and for other people. Education is really important to me, and ASU is important. I attend and volunteer with OLLI, with Osher Lifelong Learning Institute, and that's being spread all over the valley to other cities because of ASU here. With the Institute for Civil Dialogue, I'm working with Ben Franklin Circles and helping with community dialogue on different issues. And I wanted to particularly thank Colby Granville. Colby, I don't live here, but I read your newsletters, and I know several other people that do. And for me, you're a beacon for clear thinking and speaking well, so that people like me who, that's okay, I don't, but I'm not that active with the city, but I feel like I really liked what you said at the beginning of the meeting about, you know, the city is where things happen for the people. And you help, I think, Colby, you really help to get a lot of people involved who ordinarily wouldn't be. So I've had other people that tell me in some different churches, the Unitarian Church and different places, that they follow you and you help us to understand some of the people that maybe wouldn't be in the process otherwise. So I just wanted to thank you for that.
Thank you, Catherine. And then we have Omer Gouvernier. And Omer, if you could just come up and state your name and city of residence.
Sure.
Thank you.
My name is Omer Gouvernier. I'm an engineer, work for one of the utility company here as a consultant. So I live in Glendale, but work in the city of Phoenix. I am also volunteer for Foundation for Intercultural Dialogue. It's a nonprofit organization located in Tempe. And this organization has been the recipient of the Diversity Award in 2008. And we have been organizing a lot of cultural events, educational seminars, trips to overseas between different cultures. So City of Tempe has been a great place for us. But the board has decided to move to the Chandler, so it's going to be a sad. But
like you're
I
out
would
of
like to
time.
Your
thank
time's
the
up.
city on that.
Yep.
So you can follow us in semafoundation.org in our activities. I also particularly thank to the Colby Granville. He's been a lecturer on our seminars, and he's been participant of our events. He's been a great support. Thank you. So we'll be missing. So thank you. I appreciate
We will
it.
miss you. Thank you for coming, Omer.
Yep.
Very
Thank you.
nice. All right, that is all the cards I have. Is there anybody else here that would like to make a public comment? No? All right, seeing none, I guess that's it. We're adjourned. Bam.